It's Truth and Reconciliation Day. And I sympathize with the victims of the residential schools. And I share their pain, all of them. In honor of today, I'll tell you of a tale of anguish, sadness, and pain that I had gone through during my time at elementary school. Namely, the time when I learned about the residential schools. Much like the residential schools themselves, the experience learning about them was pure hell. My teacher at the time was a disciplinarian, to say the least. And when I say that, she would also stoop so low as to enforce a special kind of detention, where the student in detention would be forced to call their home and confess to their parents everything they had done. And then they'd be sent home to await parental punishment. But that's another story. The teacher had us reading a book called My Name is Pizza. From what I remember, it's an account by who I assume is a residential school survivor. I don't remember much about the book. I do remember that Pizza's rebellious attitude often put her at odds with one of the nuns who ran the school, namely a nun whom her subordinates referred to as Sister Superior. I'm told she has a notorious reputation. My class just wasn't mentally equipped to handle the stories of the residential schools. Neither was I. It made me angry to hear about what happened to them. So much so that it often put me at odds with my teacher, Cher Stuke. She's retired now, but at the moment she's just a 67-year-old yoga instructor. I'm honestly glad she's not an educator anymore. I didn't think she made a good one to begin with. I'll also add that Sister Superior herself, well, she was no prize pig herself, because not only was she abusive toward the students, like all people running the residential schools, but she was also socially intimidating and abusive in her own right. There was a part in the book where a frog was disrupting her sleep. She yelled at the frog to shut up, but when the frog continued croaking, she threw one of her shoes at it. It also seems that Pizza had a negative school experience herself. I was deeply saddened to read about what happened, but I was also angry that the teacher forced this on us. Looking back, it's hard to believe my experience learning about the residential schools was anything but pure hell. I sympathize with the residential school survivors' plights. I really do. But my teacher, my 4th grade teacher, teaching us about the residential schools at such a young age. Well, first of all, I would like to stress that I am not trying to discriminate against anyone. I am merely saying that I only wish that that the teachers in the school would have allowed us to learn about the residential schools in our own way. Personally, I would have preferred to learn about the residential schools by reading about it on the internet. But no, they forced it on us. Well, That's my 2 cents. The reason I'm posting this video is to send a message to any teachers who are tempted with teaching their students about the residential schools. Make sure your students are ready to hear it first. If they're not emotionally ready to hear it first, don't force it on them. Wait until they're ready. And to any survivors watching this, I hope this has been informative to you, and I hope this helps you understand my side of the story. I sympathize with everything you're going through, but as a result of everything I've gone through learning about this, I am very distrustful around nuns. Not all nuns, mind you, just most. I suppose any good nun would tell me that this is unfortunate, that was how I'd first heard of them. If it's any consolation to the survivors, I am still distrustful around nuns, mainly because of their involvement in the residential schools. And let's not forget the Catholic Church's silent consent of the slave trade, or its platform of complicitness during the Holocaust. My point by mentioning this is that the Catholic Church has made these mistakes, and while they may seem remorseful, well, I personally still do not forgive them for what they did to you, the survivors. To any survivors watching, well, I hope this has been informative on this day, the day of truth and reconciliation. Thomas Staples, signing off.